Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Aliens laughed at weak humans until a boy tamed their deadliest serpent. The Galactic Fauna Exhibition on Soria was a sprawling high-tech facility, known throughout the galaxy for its collection of exotic and dangerous creatures. Beings from across the stars traveled to witness its displays of the most fearsome animals, each one kept securely behind advanced containment fields. For many, the exhibition was a thrill, a chance to get close to deadly creatures without the threat of danger, but for Cume, a young human druid, it was something different. The boy, no older than 15, had been raised on Earth's natural traditions, learning the ancient druidic practices from his family and elders, with a deep love for all creatures and a gift for calming even the most frightened animal. Cume had come to Soloria with a unique mission, to share the wisdom of harmony and connection with the galaxy's inhabitants. Little did he know he would find himself drawn to one creature in particular, one that others feared above all. As he made his way through the crowded hallways of the exhibition, Cume felt both awe and sadness. The exotic animals on display were magnificent, their scales, feathers, and fur a testament to the diversity of life across the galaxy. Yet many of them appeared agitated, their eyes darting and their movements tense. Behind each containment field, he saw creatures that had been captured and had their natural instincts suppressed by walls of energy. In the center of the exhibition hall was a massive, reinforced enclosure that drew a large crowd. The sign read, "Carapace, the ancient poison serpent." The sight alone sent a shiver down Cume's spine. The carapace was infamous across star systems, a massive serpent whose venom was said to be so potent that a single drop could kill an entire village. Its scales were a dark, iridescent green, and its eyes gleamed with a fierce, cold intelligence that sent most visitors backing away in fear. Cume pushed through the crowd to get a closer look. The serpent coiled and uncoiled within its enclosure, its movements were graceful yet intimidating, each time it struck at the invisible barrier that held it in place. The crowd gasped and stumbled back, but Cume saw something beyond the serpent's aggression. He saw pain, frustration, and an unmistakable longing for freedom. "Why is it behaving this way?" he asked an alien guard standing nearby. The guard shrugged, unimpressed by the young human. "It's a beast, dangerous, ferocious, best to stay clear unless you have a death wish." But Cume's curiosity grew. His training had taught him that every creature's nature was shaped by its circumstances, and he sensed that the carapace was acting out of a deeper pain. He could feel the faint pull of its energy, wild and unyielding, but also strangely familiar. Ignoring the wary glances of the onlookers, Cume stepped closer to the containment field. "Are you lost, creature?" he whispered softly, his voice almost drowned out by the noise around him. "Are you angry at being here?" The serpent's gaze snapped toward him, its fierce eyes locking onto him. For a moment, the boy felt an intensity that he had never experienced, a raw, ancient energy, fierce and full of rage. The crowd tensed, with some muttering in alarm, as the carapace turned its full attention to the human boy standing just inches away. But Cume did not back down. He met the serpent's gaze calmly, his heart steady. In that silent exchange, he felt a connection form, a spark of understanding, as if the serpent recognized something familiar in him as well. The crowd watched in intense, silent awe, whispers spread among the onlookers like wildfire. It was unheard of for the carapace to focus on a single individual with such intensity. Most visitors couldn't bear to stay in its gaze for more than a few seconds without feeling a primal urge to flee. But Cume remained still, his presence calm and unwavering. The serpent shifted its massive body, uncoiling slightly as it studied the boy. Its scales caught the light, shimmering with an eerie, otherworldly beauty. The officials at the exhibition exchanged worried looks, and one of them, a tall alien with sharp features and deep green skin, approached. "You need to step back," the official said, his tone firm but cautious. "The carapace is extremely dangerous, especially when it's agitated. It could break through the containment field." Cume nodded but didn't move. "It's not the serpent that's dangerous," he replied gently. It's how it's being treated. His gaze remained locked on the carapace, a soft, peaceful energy radiating from him. He began to hum a low, steady tune, a druidic chant his elders had taught him. The sound was barely audible, but it resonated with a calming frequency, a vibration that seemed to fill the air around him. The crowd murmured in confusion, but Cume paid them no mind, his focus was solely on the serpent. The hum carried an ancient melody, a song meant to soothe the spirits of all creatures. Slowly, the carapace responded. Its coiled body relaxed, and the fierce gleam in its eyes softened, replaced by a look of cautious curiosity. The official stepped back, his eyes widening in disbelief as he saw the serpent's reaction. How is this possible?" he stammered. "This creature is the most dangerous in the galaxy, it doesn't listen to anyone." But Cume continued his chant, his voice unwavering. He raised his hand, pressing it gently against the containment field. He could feel the serpent's energy meeting his own, not in hostility but in acknowledgement. The serpent moved closer, its massive head coming to rest just inches from his hand, as if it could feel his touch even through the invisible barrier. A ripple of shock ran through the crowd as they witnessed the impossible. The most feared creature in the galaxy had become calm, its ferocity tamed by nothing more than the soft presence of a human boy. Cume sensed the serpent's spirit reaching out, its pain and anger softened by the quiet understanding they now shared. He spoke softly, his voice full of empathy, "You're more than just a beast, aren't you? They see you as a danger, but I see the strength and wisdom within you." The serpent held its gaze, its eyes reflecting a depth and intelligence that belied its fearsome reputation. For the first time, the creature showed no signs of aggression or rage, instead, it exuded a quiet calm, a peace that seemed to echo Cume's own spirit. The alien official shook his head, his voice filled with awe. I don't believe it. No one has ever come this close without triggering its anger. How are you doing this?" He turned to the official, his face serene. "I'm not doing anything to control it. I'm simply listening, offering it respect. It's responding to the kindness it hasn't been shown in a long time." The crowd watched in silence, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and admiration. They had come expecting a spectacle of fear, to witness a deadly creature contained and displayed like a weapon. Instead, they had seen something beyond comprehension, a bond that transcended species and fear, formed by a simple human boy and a creature that had been feared for generations. As Cume withdrew his hand, he saw the serpent's gaze follow him, a silent promise passing between them. He knew, in that moment, that their connection was just beginning. Word of Cume's bond with the carapace spread quickly through the exhibition halls, drawing larger crowds each day. Scholars, diplomats, and curious onlookers from across the galaxy gathered, their eyes fixed on the boy who could calm the most feared creature in existence. To them, it was nothing short of a miracle, a human boy, unarmored and unafraid, taming a creature that even the most advanced containment technology could barely hold. However, Cume saw the carapace not as an anomaly to be marveled at but as a living being that deserved understanding and respect. Each day he returned to its enclosure, speaking in soft tones and humming the druidic melodies that soothed the creature's spirit. The serpent moved closer each time, its powerful body coiling and uncoiling with a grace that reflected its growing trust in him. One morning, as Cume approached, he sensed a change in the carapace. It was restless, its movements more agitated than usual, as though it were trying to communicate something beyond the containment field. Cume pressed his hand against the transparent barrier, whispering his calming chant. The serpent relaxed slightly but continued to press its snout against the barrier, its eyes flickering with urgency. Intrigued, Cume turned to the exhibition official, the same alien who had once warned him to keep his distance. "The carapace is trying to reach out. It's not a threat, it just needs a connection. Please, let me enter the enclosure." The official's eyes widened, his expression torn between disbelief and horror. "You don't understand," he said, his voice tense. "The containment field is the only thing preventing it from lashing out. Without it, you could be well killed." Cume shook his head, his gaze steady. "It won't harm me. I felt its spirit, it's not hostile, it's misunderstood. Please, just give me a chance. The official hesitated, glancing at the crowd, who now watched with bated breath. After a tense moment, he sighed, resigned. Very well, he said, deactivating the containment field with a wary expression. But if anything goes wrong, we'll reactivate it immediately. As the barrier disappeared, the crowd gasped, many of them inching backward, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. Hume stepped forward, his movements slow and deliberate. The carapace watched him intently, its immense body coiled and poised, ready for action, but there was no aggression in its gaze, only curiosity and something that could only be described as hope. Hume approached the serpent, extending a hand, palm open, as he continued to hum his druidic tune. The carapace lowered its head, bringing its snout close enough that it could feel the warmth of his breath. Slowly, with a gentleness that defied its fearsome appearance, the serpent nudged its snout into Hume's hand. The crowd fell silent, stunned by the impossible scene before them. A mere human boy was petting the galaxy's deadliest serpent. His fingers brushed over its scales with reverence, and in that moment the fierce creature seemed almost vulnerable, as though it had found solace in the touch of a kindred soul. The official, too, was speechless, his skepticism replaced with awe. This is unheard of," he murmured. "The carapace has never shown such calmness, it's as if it trusts you." Hume smiled, his hand still resting on the serpent's snout. "It's not just about taming it, it's about listening to it, understanding what it's feeling. Creatures respond to respect and kindness, they just need someone to see them for who they truly are." The carapace leaned into Hume's touch, a soft rumbling sound emanating from deep within its chest, a sound of contentment, a sign that this ancient poisonous creature had found peace in the presence of a boy who saw beyond its reputation. The day after, as Hume entered the carapace enclosure, the Galactic Fauna exhibition was more crowded than ever. The story of the boy who had tamed the serpent spread like wildfire, drawing visitors from neighboring systems. Scientists, journalists, and dignitaries alike flocked to witness the bond between Hume and the carapace. Many of them approached with notebooks and recording devices, eager to document the phenomenon that defied everything they knew about the species. They noticed that the carapace was calmer than it had ever been, its usual restless demeanor replaced by a steady, relaxed posture. The serpent seemed to wait patiently for him, its gaze softening as soon as it saw him enter the enclosure. Each time Hume approached, the serpent would lower its head, inviting his touch, and he would run his fingers over its smooth, iridescent scales, sensing the creature's gratitude in every movement. The officials at the exhibition, once skeptical, were now supportive. They saw in Hume's actions a chance to revolutionize the way they handled and studied other creatures across the galaxy. Many visitors and researchers watched with reverence, their perspectives shifting as they witnessed Hume's compassion and the power of his druidic practices. But not everyone welcomed this change. A faction of alien merchants, who profited from selling and showcasing dangerous creatures, saw Hume's influence as a threat to their business. To them, creatures like the carapace were valuable precisely because of the fear they inspired. Hume's bond with the serpent threatened to strip away that fear, making these monsters seem approachable and ultimately less profitable. One of the merchants, a tall reptilian alien named Vosk, approached the officials, his tone laced with contempt. "This boy's tricks are nothing but an illusion," he scoffed. "He's making a mockery of our work here, turning a dangerous creature into a petting exhibit. The carapace is meant to be feared, not coddled." The official frowned, glancing between Hume and Vosk. "This boy has shown us that fear isn't the only way to approach creatures like the carapace," he replied in a steady voice. "Perhaps there is more to learn from him than we realize." Vosk's eyes narrowed, a glint of malice flashing across his face. "If you believe in this nonsense, then perhaps you should see the carapace's true nature. It is a killer, a predator, one that will never be tamed." That night, under the cover of darkness, Vosk enacted his plan. He entered the exhibition hall undetected and planted a series of small, concealed devices near the carapace enclosure. These devices emitted a high-frequency pulse designed to agitate and enrage the creature, to undo the trust Cume had painstakingly built. The next day, as Cume approached the enclosure, he sensed a change in the serpent's energy. The carapace was restless, its body tense and coiled as though in pain. It thrashed against the walls, hissing and baring its fangs, its eyes filled with a wild fury that Cume hadn't seen in days. The crowd gasped, murmuring in fear as the serpent's rage intensified. Vosk stood among them, a smug smile on his face as he watched the chaos unfold. However, Cume felt only concern for the carapace. Ignoring the warnings from the officials, he stepped into the enclosure, his voice calm and steady. "It's all right," he whispered, his tone soothing. "I'm here. Whatever's hurting you, I'll help you through it." He began his chant, a low, resonant melody that seemed to reach through the serpent's turmoil. The carapace stilled its eyes, locking onto a flicker of recognition breaking through its rage. Cume's voice rose, his melody stronger, filled with compassion and reassurance. Slowly, the serpent's thrashing subsided, its body relaxed as the druidic chant reached into its spirit, soothing the pain inflicted by the hidden devices. The crowd, who had been bracing for a disaster, watched in stunned silence as Cume calmed the carapace yet again. The serpent's rage melted away, leaving only a deep, abiding trust that was unmistakable. At that moment, one of the officials noticed a faint, unnatural hum coming from the devices Vosk had planted. Realizing what had happened, they quickly deactivated them, exposing Vosk's treachery. The crowd turned on Vosk, their expressions filled with anger and betrayal. His smug grin disappeared as he realized his plan had not only failed, but had been exposed in front of everyone. "This has shown us a new path," the official declared, his voice filled with conviction. "A path based on respect and empathy, not fear and control. You tried to sabotage that bond, but instead, you have only proven its strength." Vosk was escorted from the exhibition hall. Back at the carapace enclosure, Cume's heart swelled with pride and relief. The serpent coiled close, nudging his shoulder in a gesture of gratitude. Their bond had withstood deception and manipulation, proving that trust and understanding could overcome even the darkest intentions. In that moment, Cume knew that he and the carapace had started something much greater than he had ever intended. Together, they had set a new standard for the galaxy's relationship with its most feared creatures, a standard that valued compassion over control, respect over fear. In the days following Vosk's exposure and banishment, Cume's bond with the carapace became a matter of galactic interest. News spread rapidly, reaching even the highest circles of the Galactic Council. Stories and images of the young human druid calmly petting the poisonous serpent circulated across planets, capturing the imagination of countless beings who had long viewed such creatures with fear. One morning, as Cume was preparing to visit the carapace, he was approached by a group of officials led by a representative from the Galactic Council itself, a tall, stern alien named Senator Thria. She was a figure of power, her silver-blue skin and intricate robes indicating her high rank. "Salem of Earth," she addressed him formally, her voice resonating with authority, "your bond with the carapace has reached the ears of the Galactic Council. They have summoned you to demonstrate your connection with the creature, and to explain the methods that allow you to pacify and interact with such a dangerous being." The crowd murmured with awe as they watched the exchange, their excitement mingled with apprehension. This was Cume's chance to show the galaxy that even the most feared creatures deserved understanding and respect. Yet he knew that some members of the council remained skeptical, doubting that his bond with the carapace could be anything other than a fluke or manipulation. "I would be honored to present what I've learned," Cume replied, keeping his voice steady. "But the carapace must come with me. I want the council to see that it's not just about technique, but about building trust." Senator Thria's gaze softened slightly, a hint of curiosity flickering across her face. "Very well," she said, "but understand this, should the creature show even the slightest aggression, it will be contained immediately. The council cannot afford to risk the lives of its members." Cume nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I assure you, Senator, the carapace will not harm anyone. I trust it, and it trusts me." With the arrangements made, a secure transport was prepared for both Cume and the carapace to journey to the Council's headquarters on Marion Prime, a gleaming city world known for its towering structures and advanced technology. Crowds gathered to watch them depart, some cheering for Cume, others casting wary glances at the enormous serpent beside him. As the transport began its journey through the stars, Cume sat beside the carapace, who lay coiled peacefully in its containment area, now free from the harsh energy barriers. He spoke softly to the serpent, his words a comforting reminder of their bond. "They're going to see who you really are," he whispered. "Not a monster, but a creature of wisdom and power. Together, we'll show them." The serpent's gaze met his, a silent affirmation of the trust they shared. Cume felt the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders, but he knew that with the carapace by his side, he was ready for whatever awaited them on Marion Prime. Upon arrival at the Galactic Council chamber, Cume was escorted through a series of grand hallways, each adorned with holographic displays of notable events from across the galaxy. The carapace slithered beside him, its massive body moving with a fluid grace that made its size seem almost ethereal. The crowd of council representatives, advisors, and scholars watched in silence as the serpent approached the center of the chamber, where a high dais had been prepared. The members of the Galactic Council gazed down with a mixture of fascination, tear, curiosity, and skepticism. Among them were some who had long held influence over galactic wildlife policies, including strict laws regarding the control and containment of creatures like the carapace. Senator Thria, standing at Cume's side, introduced him formally to the council members. "I present to you, from Earth, the druid who has formed a bond with the carapace, our most feared and revered serpent. Today, he will demonstrate this connection and answer your questions regarding his methods." The council members murmured among themselves as they studied the boy and the beast, some leaned forward, intrigued, while others remained skeptical, their expressions unyielding. One of the council members, a dignified alien with deep green skin and piercing violet eyes, spoke first. "Young Cume, explain to us how you have managed to pacify a creature that has never before shown signs of submission or calmness. Are you using some form of technology or influence that we do not yet understand?" Cume shook his head, his expression earnest. "I use no technology, no manipulation. I approach the carapace as a druid, with respect and understanding. We druids believe that all creatures have a spirit, a consciousness. I listen to it, and I show it compassion." Another council member, a large, armored figure with a deep voice, spoke up in a tone of doubtful compassion. "How can compassion tame a creature bred for aggression? This serpent is dangerous, it has killed countless beings across the galaxy. What stops it from doing the same to you?" In response, Cume stepped toward the carapace, his every movement calm and deliberate. He placed a hand on the serpent's snout, his touch gentle yet firm. The audience watched breathless as the serpent responded by lowering its head, its body relaxed, showing no signs of aggression. "It's not about taming, or forcing it to obey," Cume explained, keeping his voice soft yet carrying. "It's about creating a bond. The carapace doesn't need to be feared or caged, it needs to be understood. When I treat it as a friend, not as a threat, it responds in kind." A ripple of amazement spread through the council members, their eyes widening as they witnessed the creature's gentle response to Cume's presence. Some shifted in their seats, their hardened views on the creature visibly softening. One of the council's most respected scientists, a wise elder with pale, translucent skin, spoke next, her tone thoughtful. "Cume, you speak of understanding and empathy, but how can this method apply to others? Is it possible that beings without your gift could connect with such creatures?" Cume considered her question carefully. "I believe everyone has the potential to connect. It requires patience, respect, and a willingness to see beyond fear. My gift might help, but the core of it is something anyone can learn. We just need to approach creatures with the same openness we give to each other." The council chamber fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in as the impact of his message was reflected in the faces of those around him. Some of them had spent their entire lives viewing creatures like the carapace as threats to be contained, yet here was proof that understanding could replace fear. Finally, Senator Thria spoke, her voice calm yet firm. Council members, today we have witnessed something extraordinary. Hume's bond with the carapace challenges our long-held assumptions and opens new possibilities for interspecies relationships across the galaxy. I propose we reconsider our policies toward such creatures, not merely as potential threats, but as beings worthy of respect and protection. The council members exchanged thoughtful glances, some nodded in agreement as hope swelled in their hearts at the seeds of change taking root. Hume's bond with the carapace was no longer just an isolated phenomenon, it was a symbol, a catalyst for a new understanding that could reshape the galaxy's view of its most feared creatures. The head of the council, an ancient being with a voice like a rumbling storm, addressed Hume directly. Young druid, your actions have spoken louder than any argument. You have shown us that fear can be overcome, that even the fiercest creatures have the potential for peace. We shall take your message to heart as we reconsider our laws. The audience erupted in applause, their expressions filled with admiration and awe. Hume glanced at the carapace, feeling profound gratitude for the journey they had undertaken together. Their bond had not only transformed how others viewed the serpent, but had also shown that the path of compassion and understanding could reach even the most untamed hearts. As he bowed to the council, Hume knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with creatures waiting to be seen, understood, and respected, and with the carapace by his side, he was ready to bring this new vision of harmony to every corner of the stars. As the Galactic Council began to reconsider its policies on dangerous creatures, the galaxy itself seemed to be at a crossroads. Hume's bond with the carapace was a revelation, proof that even the most fearsome beings could respond to respect and empathy. Yet not everyone was convinced. In the shadowed corners of the galaxy, where power thrived on fear and control, a faction of traitors, mercenaries, and animal handlers found Hume's influence threatening. These individuals had built their fortunes around capturing, containing, and showcasing exotic and dangerous creatures. To them, creatures like the carapace were valuable precisely because of the terror they inspired. Hume's bond with the serpent threatened to strip away that fear, making these monsters seem approachable and ultimately less profitable. One of the merchants, a tall reptilian alien named Vosk, approached the officials, his tone laced with contempt. This human boy, he sneered, has stirred up trouble. He's making people think these beasts can be tamed, that they're something more than vicious animals. If the council changes its policies, our entire business model collapses. We'll lose everything. Others around him nodded in agreement, their expressions dark and contemplative. Among them were handlers and collectors, each with a stake in maintaining the galaxy's fear of creatures like the carapace. They saw him not as a pioneer but as a threat. "What do you propose?" asked a tall, thin handler with metallic skin and sharp eyes. Vosk's gaze hardened, his mind already calculating. "Then we don't attack him directly, we go after the creature itself. We need to remind the galaxy just how dangerous the carapace is. If we can make it lash out in a public setting, people will lose faith in this druidic nonsense." He outlined his plan, a subtle manipulation of the serpent's environment, carefully executed to provoke a reaction. The conspirators would infiltrate the sanctuary where Hume and the carapace now resided, using devices to agitate the serpent and disrupt the bond Hume had worked so hard to establish. If the carapace attacked, the Galactic Council would be forced to reconsider its support, and Hume's influence would be undermined. The conspirators agreed, their faces set with determination, and left the meeting each prepared to execute their part of the plan, unaware of the plot against him. Hume spent his days peacefully in the newly established sanctuary on Marion Prime, working closely with the Galactic Council to advocate for the ethical treatment of creatures like the carapace. Scholars, officials, and curious visitors came daily, eager to see the legendary bond between boy and serpent. One afternoon, as he was preparing to give a demonstration for a group of council members, he felt a strange energy in the sanctuary. The carapace, usually calm in his presence, was restless, its massive body shifting uneasily, hissing a low warning sound that resonated through the enclosure, causing a murmur of alarm among the onlookers. Hume stepped forward, reaching out to the carapace, as he had done countless times before. "Easy, my friend," he whispered, his voice filled with reassurance. "I'm here." "What's wrong?" The serpent's eyes flickered with a look he hadn't seen in weeks, an echo of its old rage, a fierce glint that hinted at something unsettling. Hume's instincts as a druid told him that something was very wrong, and he scanned the sanctuary for anything unusual. At that moment, he spotted a faint red light blinking in a corner of the enclosure, something small and metallic, half hidden among the rocks. Before he could investigate further, the device emitted a low pulsing hum, a frequency designed to disrupt the creature's senses and heighten its aggression. The carapace coiled back, its body tensing, its head raising as it hissed louder. Hume felt the shift instantly, his bond with the serpent strained by the sudden wave of agitation. He knew the device was meant to provoke the creature into lashing out, and he understood that his bond alone might not be enough to counter the manipulation. The crowd gasped as the serpent's eyes locked onto Hume, its pupils narrowing, its body poised to strike. The air grew thick with tension as onlookers began to back away, their faces filled with fear and doubt. Some even whispered that the boy's connection with the serpent had been nothing more than a facade, a trick doomed to fail. But Hume refused to abandon his friend. He raised his hands, speaking softly, his voice steady despite the danger. "I know this isn't you," he said, his tone a mix of calm and strength. "They're trying to make you angry, to make you into something you're not. But I'm here, and I'm not leaving." The carapace hissed, the device's influence still strong, but Hume continued his words, infused with the quiet power of his druidic chant. Slowly, he approached the serpent, each step careful and measured, focusing every ounce of his energy on reaching the creature's true spirit. The bond they had nurtured over time was put to the test. The conspirators hidden among the crowd exchanged worried glances, they had expected the serpent to attack and break the trust that Hume had so carefully built. Instead, the boy's calm words began to have an effect, grounding the carapace despite the manipulation. Realizing he needed to neutralize the device, Hume motioned subtly to the nearest guard, whispering urgently, "There's a device in the corner, it's disturbing the carapace. Please, deactivate it." The guard hesitated, but seeing the strain on the serpent and the danger faced, he followed Hume's instructions. Moving quickly, he located the device and switched it off, silencing the pulsing hum that had been triggering the serpent's aggression. The change was immediate. The carapace relaxed its body, uncoiling its tense posture and softening as the device's influence faded. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the creature lowered its head, pressing its snout gently against Hume's outstretched hand in a silent gesture of trust. The onlookers' fear dissolved into awe as they realized what had happened, that the bond between Hume and the carapace had overcome even the attempts to sabotage it. Senator Thria, who had been observing from a distance, stepped forward, her face a mixture of admiration and anger as she addressed the crowd. "This young druid's bond with the carapace is not only real but stronger than the deception and fear that others tried to spread," she declared. "There are those who would use manipulation to provoke aggression, to control and exploit these creatures, but Hume has shown us a better way, one of trust and compassion." The conspirators, realizing they had been exposed, attempted to slip away unnoticed, but the guards on high alert intercepted them and brought them before the council members. One by one, their motives were revealed, their greed laid bare before all. The council denounced them publicly, ensuring that their manipulation would be remembered as a disgrace, a stain on their reputation. As the crowd dispersed, Hume knelt beside the carapace, his hand resting on its scales, and whispered, "Thank you for trusting me. Even when everything tried to turn you against me," the carapace let out a soft, rumbling hiss, a sound that Hume understood as its own gesture of gratitude. They had faced deception, anger, and danger, yet their bond had endured, growing even stronger in the face of adversity. In that moment, Hume knew that he and the carapace had proven something profound not just to the council, but to the entire galaxy. Their connection was unbreakable, a testament to the power of respect and compassion. It would inspire change far beyond the walls of the sanctuary. The exposure of the conspirators sent shock waves through the Galactic Council and beyond. News of Cume's resilience and the unbreakable bond he shared with the carapace circulated across star systems, drawing admiration and respect from those who had once been skeptical. Suddenly, Cume was no longer just a boy with an unusual gift, he was seen as a figure of hope and transformation, a symbol of a new way of relating to the galaxy's most feared creatures. In the days following the incident, the Council convened to reconsider their approach to creatures like the carapace. High-ranking officials, scientists, and leaders from various species gathered to discuss a new path forward, a path that emphasized empathy and understanding rather than containment and control. Senator Thria addressed the council chamber, her voice strong and clear. The events we've witnessed are more than a testament to this young druid's abilities, they are a challenge to our outdated assumptions about creatures we have long labeled as dangerous. Cume has shown us that respect can replace fear, that a bond built on trust can achieve what confinement and force cannot. A murmur of agreement filled the chamber, and one by one, the council members voiced their support for a new approach. Cume stood quietly in the chamber with the carapace beside him, feeling an overwhelming sense of purpose. The galaxy was changing, and he had been part of that transformation. In a landmark decision, the Council announced the establishment of the Galactic Sanctuary Initiative, a network of protected environments where beings like the carapace could live freely, treated not as threats but as beings of dignity and wisdom. Each sanctuary would have caretakers trained in Cume's methods, ensuring that the bond he had forged with the carapace would become a model for interactions with other powerful creatures across the galaxy. As the announcement concluded, the council members stood, paying tribute to Cume with a solemn bow, a rare gesture of respect that resonated deeply with all present. Cume felt the carapace press against his shoulder, its massive head lowering in a gesture of companionship. They had accomplished something greater than either of them had imagined. After the council adjourned, Cume met with Senator Thria, who had become both a friend and mentor. "You have done more than prove a point, Cume," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You have reshaped the future for creatures like the carapace. I hope you realize how profound your impact has been." Cume smiled, glancing at the serpent who had become both his friend and his inspiration. "This bond has taught me more than I ever thought possible. I only hope others will continue to see that kindness isn't weakness, it's strength." With the Galactic Sanctuary Initiative underway, Cume prepared to embark on a journey across the galaxy, helping to establish sanctuaries and sharing his knowledge with those who sought to understand and protect the galaxy's most extraordinary creatures. His work, however, was not just about teaching, it was about demonstrating that creatures once viewed with fear and suspicion could become allies and friends. On the day of his departure, the sanctuary on Marion Prime held a farewell ceremony. Representatives from many species attended, each one eager to pay their respects to the young druid who had shown them the power of compassion. The carapace, now a symbol of peace, coiled protectively around Cume, its once fearsome presence now a source of comfort for the boy. As the ceremony began, Cume spoke to the assembled crowd, his words resonating with a quiet strength. "This journey isn't mine alone, it belongs to all of us. I have seen the beauty in the heart of the carapace, and I believe that every creature, no matter how powerful or fierce, has the capacity for trust and understanding." He looked out at the faces before him, many of them bearing expressions of wonder and admiration. "This is a beginning," he continued. "A chance to rewrite how we see these creatures. If we approach them with patience, respect, and empathy, we can create a galaxy where all beings are valued not because of what they can do for us, but because of who they are." The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers filling the sanctuary with a sense of hope and renewal. Cume took a final moment with the carapace, kneeling beside it and resting his hand on its massive head. The serpent nuzzled him gently, its eyes reflecting a wisdom that only the two of them could truly understand. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything. You changed my life as much as I changed yours." The carapace let out a soft, rumbling hiss, a sound that echoed through the sanctuary as though it were offering its own farewell. Cume gave the serpent a final nod before stepping onto the starship that would take him to his next destination. As the ship ascended, he looked down at the sanctuary, watching as the carapace remained coiled, its body relaxed and peaceful, a symbol of everything they had achieved together. Hume's heart swelled with gratitude and purpose as he knew that the journey ahead would be challenging, that there would be those who resisted change.